It's the good old JR Jim Ross, WWE Hall of Famer, and you're listening to another wrestling podcast.
It's time for another wrestling podcast.
The measuring stick just changed around here, buddy. You're looking at
the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
They think they got the answers. I change the question.
The cream of the crop. Nobody does it better. These are the best in the world, brother. These are the best at what they do.
When we talk about the legends of the sport, there's only two in my book.
Another wrestling podcast.
Another wrestling podcast. Now can you dig that, sucker?
All right. Welcome to another wrestling podcast. I'm Steve Credo.
And I'm Jonathan Benjamin.
Welcome to episode 96, Jonathan. Wow. 96 episodes. Who's going to be joining us today?
None other than the voice of a generation, commentating legend, WWE Hall of Famer, good old JR.
We're going to be talking about FITE TV. We're going to be talking about WrestleMania, a lot of wrestling questions, and more. So stay tuned. Jim Ross will be in the building very shortly. But Jonathan, we went on a little road trip this weekend. AWP was on the road. We went up to NXT in Albany. It was my first NXT show, and wow, what a show it was.
Absolutely. And Steve, if you are a fan that's listening right now, and you want to keep up with all of our goings-on, whether we're at NXT or a local indie show or a WrestleMania or whatever, you can follow us on all the forms of social media. But we suggest going on over to anotherwrestlingpodcast.com to get you started.
That's right. That's the place of anything and everything AWP. So make sure you head on over there. Subscribe to us, like us, follow us, and all that fun stuff. But Jonathan, NXT Albany, my first NXT. You're probably third or fourth NXT by now, I think.
Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you what. I don't think I've ever been to a show that didn't seem like a house show. This seemed so much more. It seemed, it was so. I'll tell you what. I was watching Fastlane this week, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, this house show was better than the main roster pay-per-view, and this is still quote-unquote like a developmental territory or whatever you want to call it for WWE, and it didn't seem like that, Jonathan. They're way ahead of their game, and I don't know, man. It's just they're doing everything right down there.
Yeah, see, with NXT, I feel like, I don't know, I guess that it doesn't feel as corporate, it doesn't feel as jaded. You're going to these smaller venues. You know, the electricity in the buildings are just crazy. All the fans come out. They're there to support wrestling in general. They boo people and they cheer people, but at the end of the day, everybody there, I think, except for Eva Marie, has their respect. Maybe Elias Sampson as well. But it was just such a great atmosphere, and the matches top to bottom were just phenomenal. The only issue that I would say at all that I had with it was the fact that they took your camera from you, Steve.
Man, I've been to many house shows, many wrestling events, and the security at this place was, what's that? The funny line, the guy with the white glove was extremely gentle, kind of a thing. It was very tight. No bags, no cameras, whatever. I just wanted to bring my camera. I wasn't going to videotape it and sell DVDs online or anything, but I like bringing my camera and taking some nice pictures. But hey, they got to do what they got to do, and I can't be mad at them. It's their security and this and that. But hey, that's probably the only complaint is that I couldn't take good pictures with my camera. But Jonathan, it's 2015, it's 2016. I don't know what year it is anymore. But everybody has a smartphone, an iPhone, and we could still take pictures. Even though he took my camera, I still had a camera on my phone. Go figure. But hey, man, like you were saying, a lot of these guys, Jonathan, that we saw in Albany, who do you think we're not going to see anymore in NXT? Who's going to be moving up? And I'll tell you, my guess, or my hope at least, has to be Enzo and Cass. The pop they got coming out, man, they are so over with the fans. The fans love interacting with him. The fans love their shtick. They love everything that they do. I see these guys after WrestleMania moving right up. What do you think?
I think that's a definite possibility. End Zone Casts are really, really good at what they do. I saw a lot of improvements from Colin Cassidy. I just really, it's been a while since I saw him live, and he put on a heck of a show. I always kind of felt that he was the Jannetty of the team, but I think right now they're both running on full cylinder, and I hope that after Mania or during Mania they get the call up. That would be awesome. But somebody else that I saw that really impressed me was actually, and I'm gonna say it, everybody's gonna be calling in and yelling, but as far as the match that she had against Asuka,
oh, man,
Eva Marie really impressed me. She's doing better. I will just say that she is doing light years better than she has in the past.
Jonathan, we're on the same page, man. A few people I talked to, I think, kind of had similar opinions to where, everybody, what we've seen from her, to where they kind of rushed her doing some things to where, like, being on the main roster and this and that. And it was quite obvious that she wasn't ready. You know what I mean? And no offense to her, but it's, when you have that look, they're going to rush you to the moon and back. So, but Jonathan, I'll tell you what, man. I don't think she's the greatest wrestler in the world, but she has definitely improved a lot just from being in NXT, just from training down there, and honing her craft a little bit more, if you will. And Jonathan, as much as I hate to say it, I agree. She definitely did improve. I mean, like I said, I'm not saying, oh wow, she had the 5-star match of the night and this and that, but I'll tell you what. I was expecting a lot worse, and she actually was a lot better than what I thought. So I'll tell you what, whatever she's doing, it's working, and you know what? I wish her the best, and well, hopefully she keeps working on it, and they don't rush her too soon, because she still needs to work on a lot of things. But overall, that NXT, man, it's the place to I guess work your kinks out, right?
Yeah, and just the excitement. There was kind of a feeling in the air that everybody was there to have a good time. We were waiting for anything and everything that could happen. We were actually sitting ringside. We got to see a lot of people. And the fact that they interact with the fans is really something that makes me enjoy wrestling again. I watched this NXT event and I felt like I was a kid again. I felt like I was going to one of my first wrestling events ever. And, they did their best to go around, talk to everybody, take pictures, sign things, whatever the case may be. But that's what I always hated about whenever I go to, the big events, is it's almost like that they don't have the time to do that at those events.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hear you. I agree with you. All in all, it was a spectacular time. Guys, if you were out there, you went to the event too, tweet us at a wrestling pod or Facebook us at another wrestling podcast. Just let us know. How did you feel about the show? Were you there? I don't know. I want to hear everybody's opinions and, thoughts or whatnot. We posted a lot of pictures too on our Instagram. Follow us on Another Wrestling Podcast. Some videos as well. Even though they took my camera, Jonathan, we still got some good pictures that night. So, all in all, A++ for this NXT Albany event, and I can't wait for them to do more in our area, because they definitely need to tour more and get the fans to see them instead of just staying in that one location, right?
Yeah, the touring, I think, is going to keep continuing. We've saw that I think they got a couple dates in Florida coming up, some in the south, and then hopefully they get back up here in the northeast. There's some rumors running around right now that they may be in our backyard sometime soon, so we're looking forward to seeing that. But I would love for this to happen maybe on the WWE Network someday, is see some of these shows that not everybody can see live. Like, I would love to see some of these house shows. I feel like we go to White Plains a lot, White Plains, New York, the Westchester County Center. There's a lot of great places that have some amazing matches that people unfortunately never get to see. So
you bring up a good point, Jonathan. The network, how we view these shows today. I mean, if you can go back few years ago, I mean, in high school at least, I remember buying VHS tapes, and that was the way, I mean, like, if you wanted to watch a show from Japan, or you wanted to watch, some other promotion down south, you had to watch them on VHS tapes. You know what I mean? You had to buy them, watch them, or try taping it if it was on TV late at night. We've progressed so much, Jonathan. I think we should get into a little bit of the history of viewing professional wrestling, right?
Yeah, I think that this is, people that are listening to this now, some of them are around our age, some are older, some are younger, and it's not always been this easy to see everything and anything in the world of professional wrestling. And as somebody who was stuck in the Midwest growing up, it was even increasingly harder to get that. I was brought up around the time of what they used to call tape trading, where people would, go see shows like, say, in Philadelphia, and they would tape them on VHS tapes, and they would trade them with somebody who lived in the Midwest for a promotion that's out there. And that way people could kind of get to know other performers, because it was the territory system back then. And so that was really cool. That was sort of ending as I started to grow up. I remember that prior to the network in Oakland City, Indiana, there was a place called Hometown Video. And my dad would take me there once a week, usually on a Saturday, and I would go in, and there was a huge wall of WWF Coliseum home videos, and that was my network back in the day. I would rent the greatest matches of Hulkamania. I would rent WrestleMania 4, whatever it was. I would rent it, and I would have to have it back on Sunday or Monday, and make sure I rewound the tape. But
kids just don't understand that today.
They don't. You got to be kind. Rewind.
Oh my gosh,
it's so different today because we have a few different networks that are out there that allow you to watch, decades upon decades of professional wrestling history. So I am so happy, and it's only $9.99. Like I'm not doing a commercial for them. I'm just saying. Like, that was how much I used to have to pay to rent a VHS tape that I had to turn in the next day. So
that's right. It's amazing how much it's changed in just a few short years. I mean, like you said, from VHS, then, okay, we upgraded to DVDs, but it's still the same concept, But then, the network was a little bit ahead of its time when it came out just a few years ago, to where we got it, but people were like, well, you're going to watch everything on there now? And it kind of blew people's minds, but it also, opened the gateway for a lot more. I mean, granted, before the network, we still had YouTube, where people were just ripping stuff off of DVDs and putting them on YouTube and whatnot, put them on the internet, put them on social media for everybody to watch. So, YouTube kind of evolved, and I think WWE was just like, screw this, we'll just make our own network and put up all of our own old videos so people will stop ripping it off, so it kind of makes them more money. But it's amazing how it's progressed to, like, an app. Watching it on your iPad, watching it on your TV. Speaking of apps, which we're going to talk to Jim Ross about in a little bit, the new app that's out, FITE TV, if you head on over to FITE.tv, you can learn more about it. Now, think of it as like a YouTube for all fighting stuff. So you can enjoy MMA, professional wrestling, boxing, mixed martial arts, all in one place. So basically, it's taking all the videos from all the websites of, MMA, boxing, wrestling, and putting them in one location. You can even rent pay-per-views on it now, to where all these other professional wrestling, companies, or if you want to watch a pay-per-view and you don't know where to get it, if you head to FITE.tv, you can do it right off there. So it's amazing, Jonathan, amazing to how far we've come in just so little time, right?
Yeah, and that there's a lot of different networks out there. We just talked about WWE Network, but I know that Ring of Honor's got some streaming services, and New Japan does as well, and it's the best time to be a wrestling fan out there, because you can consume so much wrestling, and it's never been easier. And it's really the best part about it is whenever these new stars come over to WWE, or if you hear about new ones from, like, say, I don't know, any other indie promotion, a lot of these places are getting their name out there through these streaming services. So I really think it's the future of wrestling. It's going to be an amazing way for people to see things that maybe they've never got to see before, like Mexican wrestling, or like I said, Japanese wrestling, or any other kind of. I know there's a lot of great places overseas that unfortunately for us in the United States, we don't get to see. But now, because of these networks, it's never been easier.
That's right. And Jonathan, I think it's almost as, back in the day, or, however long you want to go back, a lot of companies needed to get on a network. Like right now, TNA, we don't talk too much TNA, but, TNA left Spike. And then they went to a network where people didn't really get them anymore. You know what I mean? They were worried about getting a TV deal. To where, if you think about it, at the end of the day, if they just worried about maybe making their own network or their own app or something, to where if they, got funded a certain amount of money for all these different things, to where if they kind of copied WWE, to where, okay, let's not rely on Spike TV, or let's not rely on Pop TV or wherever they're on right now, and just maybe focus in and putting their money on like an app to where you have to pay for it. Maybe it's like $5 for the app, and then, you could buy your pay-per-views on there, and you could view all the episodes on there. Granted, I know they need a network to help pay for certain costs, but at the same time, I think they really need to develop their own kind of a network, because that's the thing these days. Where do you get a movie? You watch a movie on your Apple TV, your Roku box, or you don't really, or you download them. You know what I mean? Like, you don't really go to the store. I don't think there's rarely places to go rent movies anymore. I mean, you have that little red box popping up in different locations, but there's Blockbusters closed, so you're not really renting things anymore. It's all digital, man. So I think any company coming up today or right now, it's, if you want to watch their product, I think they really need to focus all their money and energy on developing their own kind of a network, because TNA, once again, for a small example, they have over 10 plus years of a history that they can put on this, to where you really can't look back at TNA right now unless you go to their site or YouTube and watch some old matches, but there's really no order to it. Like WWE Network has like an order to it and has like their own network specials, their own TV shows on there now, and NXT, their own brand of wrestling, and they need to do something like that. A lot of companies, Ring of Honor, New Japan has their own network as well. UFC has their own network, you know what I mean? So everybody's starting to have like all their own networks. Jonathan, my question to you is, that's pretty much the future, right? Is, we're not going to be looking for so-and-so on a certain channel anymore, to where, do you think in a few years we'll see the WWE, we'll see Raw on the network more than because I know they show a lot of old episodes on there and whatnot, but I mean, do you think it just makes sense to just put it on your app to get more people to watch it and buy it and download it?
Well, you've already started to see some of that with, exclusive shows that you can't see anywhere else. And what's cool about it, too, is you start to see sponsors. So WWE's almost got their own commercials on there with Snickers or Tap Out or whatever. And that's kind of paving the way for what you're talking about. I think in the future we will see exclusive, maybe Raw, SmackDown, all that will be on the network. And because that's really what's happening. I don't think I'm going to say in 10 years, there probably won't be cable TV anymore. There won't be any of that sort of thing. It'll be these networks. It'll be like Netflix, Hulu, WWE Network. Even smaller companies, High Spots has their own network as well. So I think it's the way of the future. It's easier. You can kind of be a consumer that way. You can pick and choose what you want. It's like going to a buffet. You don't have to have everything. You gotta get to pick and choose what you want. And another awesome thing about these networks is, some of this footage that we would have thought was lost or that we never got to see, USWA matches, Mid-South, AWA, NWA, all of this stuff is now under one roof, and we're all able to enjoy it and to go back and use it. I know whenever we talk about certain topics or whatever, I can just type in, hey, if we're going to talk about Bret Hart today, because you want to every week, I type in Bret Hart, and it brings up everything on the network about Bret Hart, which is just amazing. So for curatorial reasons, for just basic awesomeness, this network is a really cool way to utilize as a wrestling fan.
Yeah, and once again, maybe let us know what you guys do out there. I mean, even on YouTube, to where, okay, if you're a company that doesn't even, have money to make their own network or own app or whatnot, you can charge on YouTube these days, to where if you want to sell a certain pay-per-view or a special or something, you can charge people right on there too. So even YouTube's adapting to these people looking for other kind of networks. So it's evolving, Jonathan. It's going to be exciting what happens in the future. But speaking of networks, I want to get more into FITE TV. It's an app, you guys, like I said, once again, head on over to FITE.tv, download it. It's free. You know what I mean? So it's free to download it. You can get all of your wrestling, boxing, MMA, mixed martial arts, all that in one place. But let's not just let me talk about it or us talk about it. Let's bring on Jim Ross, who's in the studio right now. He's going to talk to us a little bit about this and a lot more. Please, let's welcome Jim Ross. All right, joining us today on another wrestling podcast is the voice of a generation. His commentary and contributions to the wrestling business are legendary. We are extremely honored to welcome back WWE Hall of Famer Jim Ross. Jim, thanks so much for speaking with us today. You're extremely busy, and we have lots to cover, including your partnership with FITE TV. So let's get right into it. Last time we spoke with you, you were working on your book. Can you give us any updates about your book?
Still working on it. It's come along very well. We sent about, 6 sample chapters to our literary agent in New York City. So he's beginning to get in the process of shopping very seriously. So, and I'm more focused on the writing, obviously, than the business side of it. So it's come along well. We seem to be. I think we've tapped into something real good, and I'm very, very I'm happy with where we are. We're just not going to rush the process to get a book out by Christmas so we can make an extra dollar or two. I want the book to be perfect in our view, as perfect as it can get before we turn it loose. So it's a work in progress, but it's a positive work in progress.
We really enjoy your writing style on your blog. Do you feel that writing is something that comes easily to you? Yeah,
I think so. I enjoy it. I think, like anything in life, the things that we really enjoy sometimes do come easier to us for us than maybe for other folks. But I enjoy it. It's great freedom of expression. I get to exercise my creativity somewhat, and so I enjoy it. That's why I'm so, I guess, persnickety, if that's a good word, for this book. I want it to be, I have high expectations for it to be a great read, and we don't want to settle. So we're really painstakingly writing, and I like what we're doing.
Sure. Now, so speaking of your historic career, you have stated that you were a huge fan growing up. What was it that first drew you to professional wrestling, and what about wrestling that still makes you love it today?
Well, the first big angle I remember seeing was the Kentuckians and the Assassins. The Assassins were named after the unfortunate Kennedy traumatic experience in Dallas, where President Kennedy got shot, assassinated. That's a little trivia, worthless trivia, I might add. And the Kentuckians, Jake Roberts' dad, Grizzly Smith, and Luke Brown were the big Kentucky guys. And that was an angle that was very, very real, very viable. Grizzly Smith got hard weight on TV, and it was very disturbing for that point in time in the early 60s. So that was really the most memorable thing. The most memorable athlete from that generation was Dan Hodge, because he was the NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion. He was our homegrown, two-time Olympian, Golden Gloves boxing champion. The first wrestler on the cover of Sports Illustrated was Dan Hodge in April 1st, 1957. So he was our big star in our territory and was the hero. So I've been a fan. I don't know what draws me to it. I don't know if you can even describe it. I don't know. I like the good versus evil. I like the athleticism. I like the showbiz when it's not overdone. I like drama. I like the episodic version of the way that people produce TV when it's done right. So there's a lot of things about the business I like. There's a whole lot more things about the business that I like than I don't like.
In the past couple of months, a lot has gone on in the world of professional wrestling. One of those was the debut of AJ Styles. Now, as someone who has been entrenched in the business on almost every level, were you surprised by his WWE debut at the Royal Rumble?
A little bit at the Rumble, but not surprised. I knew he had aspirations to go to WWE. I had him on my podcast back in the day, last year, and we discussed that casually. I think anybody that's honest, that's in the wrestling business, will tell you that many of their eventual goal is to be in WWE because it's got the largest footprint and and you have the biggest opportunity to make the most money and maximize your earning potential in a business where the careers are sometimes short. So I wasn't surprised that he signed. I was a little surprised that he debuted at the Royal Rumble, but I will say pleasantly surprised because I thought it was a very good introduction for AJ and WWE and their fan base.
All right. Now, AJ was a mainstay for New Japan, which you're doing commentary for now. What's your experience like with New Japan, and what can the fans expect from you on this venture?
Well, I've been aware of New Japan since they went in business in '72. I got the business in '74, and a lot of the guys in the territory that I broke in were toured with New Japan. So New Japan has been on the radar for us in the wrestling business for years. I called Wrestle Kingdom 9 last January in 2015. Enjoyed it thoroughly. Really had no desire to get back into a weekly pro wrestling rotation, the travel, and all that stuff. Turned down a lot of offers from different companies. Two things about that. One, I wanted travel that was more manageable, and two, I wanted to be able to associate with a product that I personally endorsed, I liked. Mm-hmm. I felt like if I liked the product and had emotional investment in it, I would do a better job. So I'm very excited about I'm working with Josh Barnett, who's outstanding. The folks at Access TV, Mark Cuban's company, have been more than wonderful. I had a wonderful week out there last week, 2 days. We've watched over 6 shows. Our first show airs, debuts on Friday night, March 4th, the 4th of March, and I had a great time. Get back in the audio booth, something I've done over the years a lot. I like the presentation. I think it fits my skill set compatibly. So it's a real good situation for me. The travel's not abrasive. It's 8 or so trips to L.A. a year. Go out there, stay a couple of days, enjoy the Southern California weather, and knock out. We did 3 shows a day, so it gives you a little time to exhale. Mm-hmm. And I like the schedule. I love the product, and I really am positive about working with Access TV. They're a great crew, and I had never been on day one on a job made to feel more welcome than Access TV made me feel. So I think it's going to be a win-win all the way around, and hopefully my work will be well received by the fans, and they give us a shot.
Personally, what is the hardest part about commentating?
The hardest part about being a New Japan commentator is being able to efficiently identify all the talents and then being able to pronounce their names correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't really have any issues with the holds. Even though holds are given, the basic moves are given new. It's like Tanahashi's finish is a frog splash. Mm. But he doesn't call it frog splash. So I try to call all the names by the names that the athletes have named their holds, their finish maneuvers. Mm. But I'll be honest with you, there are times when I don't use those names. I use the original names.
Sure.
Some New Japan purists are probably not going to like that. That's their prerogative. But I think that, talent recognition, getting used to pace, stylistically, But it's basically, if you pay attention and you watch your monitor and you describe what you're seeing, and not wander off into a area where you're hearing audio that doesn't match the video. When that occurs, the opportunity for a disconnect with a viewer is very prominent.
Sure.
So we try not to do that. We try to stay with the matches, and all of our commentary, even the banter, was match-related. So I think that'll be a significant difference in the way a lot of people broadcast wrestling, pro wrestling in America.
All right. Now, Jim, you are highly regarded as the voice of pro wrestling, but would you say you're your own worst critic?
Yeah, probably. I haven't really. I'm hard to please with my own work, and there's dozens and dozens of hours of product that fans see on the WWE Network of my work in Atlanta and my work even before that, Mid-South, UWF. I've never watched. Back in the day, we didn't have everything where you could, there wasn't, the technology wasn't as advanced as it is now to make things easy. You had to get a tape and get it dubbed and take it home, put it in your VCR. It was just it was a lot more, extensive to watch your work. And I watched some of it, and I cringe because I thought I could do better. I've always thought I could do better, and always pushed to do better. So even though I'm very excited about New Japan, and I'm really happy when Josh Barnett and I left L.A., left the studio of Access there at L.A. Live, I was very, very happy with what we did. Mm-hmm. I will promise you that I will listen to that work, and I will find things that I did wrong or things I should improve upon. And I probably will have that same MO until I hang it up for good, which is no time soon. So, sure. Yeah, I'm a tough critic of myself. And sometimes on others, which I try to back off of that a little bit because I'm not big on, I think sometimes when you're an announcer and you critique other announcers, it's very, very easy for a younger demographic to think that the old guy is just being, bitter, jealous, whatever. And God knows I'm not bitter, and I certainly am not jealous. Mm-hmm. I like my body of work in total. But I think we all can get better at whatever we do, and that's just the way I approach my job, no matter what job it is. Sure. If I'm doing boxing, if I'm doing wrestling, if I'm doing MMA, there's always a way to get better.
Sure. Now, we mentioned earlier that you've been extremely busy as of late. You're currently the face of FITE TV. It's an app which can be found on Apple and Android. Can you explain your involvement with FITE and how it will revolutionize the way fans get professional sports content in the future?
Well, it's an app that I used before I invested. I used it. I have my friends that are more technologically sound than I to try it. I got feedback from a lot of my buddies that are very critical, and I enjoyed the app personally. I downloaded it for free, which everybody can do. Mm-hmm. I went on the app. I took a little self-induced tour, saw all the things that they do, all the programming that they provide, and I learned that if you have Wi-Fi availability and you have a smart TV, you can play anything on their app on your smart TV. I love that because it has pro wrestling on it. It's got MMA on it. We're going to work with a lot of different wrestling promotions. I think it's going to be really wonderful that the FITE TV is going to be able to provide a platform for small wrestling organizations, small MMA organizations, regional fights, because in all honesty, the next great stars in all those entities, whether it be pro wrestling, boxing, or MMA, are going to start somewhere. They're going to be the unknown guy. They're going to be somebody discovered this guy. And we're giving you the opportunity to see all these new, fresh talents early in their career. So if you got Wi-Fi and you got a smart TV, you're in. If you're at a hotel somewhere and you got Wi-Fi, you can watch the fights on your iPad or your phone if you don't have a smart TV in your room, which is somewhat unlikely. But not impossible. So that's what I like about it. You can watch what you want, when you want. A lot of it's free. Some of it's pay-per-view. And I like the fact that the pay-per-views are going to support these smaller organizations so that their fighters, their wrestlers, their boxers can live their dream. And I think that's important for all of us to be able to live our dreams. And, I'm living mine still at this stage of the game. There's a lot of things I haven't done that I'm going to try to do.
I think it's revolutionizing the way fans will get sports as they do today. Everything's on the internet, everything's on an app, everything's on a network kind of a thing nowadays. And what better place to have all this sport content in one place? So it's definitely worth the download, everybody.
I believe that the way we're going to watch a lot of our sports as time goes on, especially special sports like pro wrestling or MMA or boxing, is going to be digitally. And I think it's the wave of the future without question. And all people got to do, they can check it out. The great thing, here's what I encourage. I'm not going to make any money on downloading. So the download doesn't have a ulterior motive. Other than, I think that if you download it for free and you check the FITE app, you will find that it has things on it, features and benefits that you as a TV viewer and a combat sports fan will enjoy. So that's the case I make for it. I have liked it a great deal. It's simple to navigate. It opens up the world to a lot of different programming. It's going to allow a lot of wrestlers, pro wrestlers, for example, to be noticed better. I would think that the WWE talent relations people will be avid users of our FITE app because they're going to be able to see athletes in all kinds of combat sports, all kinds of in-ring activity that they may see some young kid that they fall in love with and say, well, that kid's got a great look, he's a good athlete or whatever. And they're going to discover some talent on this thing. No different than Dana White and the UFC or Scott Coker and Bellator. They're looking for new stars. Any promotion that does it daily, cultivate new talent to bring to their fan base, is making a major error. And I don't think that UFC or Bellator are known for making their major mistakes. And certainly WWE is compelled at this point in time to get young and to get athletic and not be so dependent on size, but more dependent on quality. And I think that's kind of where I see the business going, is provide the fans quality and don't worry about how tall or how big somebody's arms are. As long as they look like an athlete and they're in great shape and they can perform in an athletic-based environment, I think you're good.
Definitely.
Now, you've literally had your hand in commentating a lot of professional sports. Is there any sport out there that you really haven't gotten to call that you'd like to?
The only thing that I'd like to do football at some point in time. I think I will at some juncture. Maybe a one-off, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'd like to get back. My goal is to get back into boxing. I did the boxing event for Fox a year or so ago. Got good reviews. I was doing a fight through Fox for Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya's company. Then Oscar's company and Fox parted ways, so that kind of put a damper on that particular deal. But we're working on some boxing opportunities right now that I'm thinking maybe as early as this week, maybe finalized so that we can talk about it. But boxing is something I'm very interested in doing. I love to be at ringside. Boxing, I can do. I think I can do this offer that I have right now on the table is to do a primetime boxing event monthly on cable, and so we're exploring that, and we get all the I's dotted and T's crossed. I'll be back on TV on a monthly basis, on a national basis, and doing some boxing. So I hope that bears fruit, and we'll know in the next few days. Should know this week, actually.
Another hot button issue in 2015 were the injuries that plague professional wrestling. Do you feel that there's a certain reason more wrestlers are being injured, and is there any way to fix that injury problem?
Well, I have my opinion is that the reason we're seeing all these injuries is talents are taking too many risks unnecessarily. Mm-hmm. They're putting their bodies on the line in very high risk, low reward scenarios. So I think that less is more. I'm not advocating for somebody that's rolling their eyes or hit that stop button that everybody go back to world tights and lay in a headlock for 20 minutes. I'm saying be intelligent, tell a story, isolate a body part, utilize legitimate wrestling holds in pro wrestling. But when you're solely dependent on your aerial skills, which are oftentimes utilized as stopgaps, shortcuts, being lazy. I think that as long as guys have that philosophy and they don't have the in-ring skills that they wish they had, so they disguise them by doing a lot of flying stuff and taking an inordinate amount of high-risk moves, so you crash and burn a lot, night after night or tour after tour, you're going to have injuries because the body's just not made for that sort of treatment. So I think that if talents gets back to basic fundamental wrestling, telling great stories, sprinkling in the high-flying stuff, the crash and burn, it'll mean more. But sometimes you see so much of it. I got home Monday night from recording my podcast, and I got to see about an hour and change of Raw. Now, I always tape this. It's always on my DVR. But I got home in time to watch the last hour live, and the things I noticed is that in 2 consecutive matches, they set up these choreographed spots where the adversaries were standing on the outside, and the one guy did his plancha or a tope with his suicide dive over the top. They were identical moves, and there were 2 back-to-back matches. I think that's a lack of attention to detail. I think it's taking unnecessary shortcuts, and quite frankly, it's unimaginative and it's a little bit lazy, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So I like the flying, I like the aerial, but I like it in. Don't desynthesize me. Don't make me think that. Oh yeah, I just saw that. Because it's like the old deal of hardcore wrestling. Mm-hmm. You hit somebody with a chair this week, and you want to use the chair next time on TV. Well, what's going to be different?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll hit him twice. Okay, so there's where we are. And we went to a table last week. Now we'll stack them. We'll do 2, and we'll get to where? How many? 4, 3, 6? I just think that sometimes the injuries are a byproduct of the style that a lot of the younger guys are using, who think that they just die for that. This is awesome, all that. I think they're working sometimes for the pop and not working to get over, or especially it works that way in heels. Heels in today's market, by and large, had rather be cool and be character baby faces in essence than be heels that have villain angst. So they're working for the spot, they're working for the pop, and not working for the heat. And I think sometimes these offensive moves that guys do are working for the pop and the chant and not working for the betterment of the match to tell that story, because you got to keep topping yourself. And the more you keep trying to top yourself, the more you're putting your body at risk. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of guys with shoulder injuries and all kinds of things that weren't that prevalent back in the day.
Sure.
And certainly we know what happens to guys' necks and their head and concussions. And you'd think somewhere along the way that the trend will reverse. Mm-hmm. And the mat wrestling. I did a match that had Kushida versus Kyle O'Reilly. It was the best of the Super Juniors tournament. And the match was one match was a whole hour. Huh. And it was Super Juniors. And I didn't sneak peek it in the whole 9 yards. I saw it in its entirety the one time. That's when I did it. Mm-hmm. But the guys were mat wrestling, and it was believable. Mm-hmm. It was realistic and it was logical. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't a spot fest. There were great spots in it. Don't get me wrong, but they were sprinkled in at the right time, and so it was a great balance. And then I had some matches on the New Japan show that was a spot fest in general. A lot of the tag matches in New Japan on the smaller weights, it ends up being nothing but a spot fest. Mm-hmm. There's no story. There's no, what is the basis of the story? What is the rhyme here? What are we really trying to sell? And you're really trying to sell time and do your 10 or 15 minutes, get all your stuff in, and then call it a day. So it doesn't leave you with anything. Which of the Hurricane Ranas should I remember? which of the dives over the top should I remember? Which of the Hurricane Ranas should I remember? The first one, the third one, the second? I don't know. So that's where we are. I just think that injuries are a byproduct of how the guys work, and I think that somewhere along the way, cooler heads are going to prevail. Smarter workers are going to get more involved, and they're going to understand how to tell a compelling story without putting their body in too many risk.
Mm-hmm. Now, real quick, too, no injury was more talked about, especially as of late, than Daniel Bryan. What were your thoughts briefly on his retirement and shedding light onto his personal struggles with his injuries?
Well, I wrote a story for Fox Sports that got a lot of play and a lot of great feedback, foxsports.com. Daniel Bryan is a byproduct of what we just got to be talking about. He put his body through an amazing amount of risk. He went above and beyond, trying to do more and more and more for the audience, and we see the results. At 34, he's done. And he won't be the first one that's prematurely out of the business because of injury issues. And I hope that guys can understand what the journey that this great athlete has been on, and a wonderful ambassador to pro wrestling, and a hell of a human being, but he did so much, he went above and beyond, and it ended up biting him in the keister. So I'm just happy that he's wrestling. He was wrestling in this generation and for WWE, because what other company in the world would provide the kind of medical care that WWE has provided Daniel Bryan? He's seen specialist after specialist, and those are not cheap visits. It's a lot of money that the company is more than happy to invest in the health and the welfare of their athlete. So, because I know from my days starting in the business in the 70s, all the way through the 80s and the 90s, I know what would have happened in a previous generation. He'd have gotten an attaboy, he'd have felt better, and he'd have gone right back in the ring. And then you know what would happen there. So he's lucky it happened in this generation. He's lucky it happened on WWE's watch. And he is he's a most valuable player. He's the kind of guy you can't, any company, whether it's WWE or whomever, IBM, Coca-Cola, JR's Barbecue, it doesn't matter. Whoever, you can't get too many Daniel Bryans on your team. So I'm sure that WWE will find plenty for Daniel Bryan to do. He's a great role model. He should be a wonderful mentor, coach, PR guy, might even be a color analyst. Who knows? So I'm happy that he has been able to exit, hopefully with no more collateral damage, and that he's going to be able to live a very viable and productive life that's going to be, there's not going to have as many problems health-wise. Beautiful wife, and he's still kind of a newlywed. I know they want to have a family. I think it's great. And like I said, I'm not sad for him. It's unfortunate, but I'm happy that he, as I said, it was now and it was a WWE, and I think he's just actually beginning the second phase of his career. And knowing him, it should be just as eventful and momentous as his wrestling career was.
Sure. Jim, we know you're a busy guy. We got just two more questions for you. We're on the road to WrestleMania right now. With all these injuries, do you think it's going to affect the show somehow, or is this the time for some of these guys to step it up a notch to be put on this grand stage?
I think it's WrestleMania. I think that it's in WrestleMania in a castle known as AT&T Stadium. It's in a venue that even a lot of people in Texas haven't been able to get in to see. The events that go into there tickets are hard to come by and very expensive. So I think that the venue is a great drawing card. I think the fact that you're in an American airline hub where you can fly in from virtually any city in the world to DFW, the fact that it's Dallas Love Field is the hub for Southwest Airlines. So you have a city that's extremely accessible by air. It's extremely accessible by car, where it's located in the center of the country. I think they'll do 100,000 plus. I'm not worried about the card. I think people fixate over that too much. I think you get the card set. You give me 3 or 4 weeks of good build to the final card. I believe that'll be enough. I think we live in a generation where I need it now. My attention span is short. I think if you get a card booked so far out, I think sometimes it works to your detriment that people in today's world get tired of hearing about it. It's like I made a comment about who I thought the Undertaker should wrestle, and I made a comment that I thought that it would be a good pairing for him because of the odds against him would be Undertaker versus Luke Harper. Because the first thing, Harper is a hell of a worker, and he's big, and he and Undertaker, I think, would have great chemistry. And then he's also got the odd man advantage because he's got backup. Mm-hmm. And, and so I thought that might be good. So then I say that, I think on my podcast, and I get the tweets from guys saying, well, did you not know that Undertaker wrestled Harper in November? And I'm thinking, okay, we're talking November. I'm talking April. So you're telling me that based on today's value, today's philosophy, that somebody wrestling Undertaker in November, it would be not good if they came back and wrestled him with a reason in April. So that threw me off a little bit. So, I think that it's going to be a success. I think the venue is amazing. The logistics are great. And I don't know what the card's going to be either. But, I can tell you from broadcasting a lot of WrestleManias, I was more excited about WrestleMania than any match we ever called. Mm-hmm. Now, there were a lot of great matches. So I'm not discounting any of that. I got to call all three of the Austin Rock matches from 15, 17, and 19. I got to call Shawn Michaels, Undertaker 25. I got to Ric Flair's last match, WrestleMania. But WrestleMania itself is what flips the switch for me, and I think it does for a lot of fans. My three shows down there are doing amazingly well. Mm-hmm. They're doing great. And for the House of Blues, I got one on Saturday, April 2nd, and two of them, as a matter of fact, one before and one after the Hall of Fame, 8 minutes away at the House of Blues. And then I got one after Raw on Monday night. And all are selling equally well. They're all well on the way to selling out, and the venue's about 1,000 people. So I want to have my three biggest crowds I've ever done at my one-man shows. And it has nothing to do with the card at WrestleMania. There's that many people coming in that, luckily for me, want to come see my show, which your listeners can do at Ticketmaster.com. So it's a cool thing. The whole celebration is good. I think it'll be great. I'm not worried about the card, and I think that you're not going to have any worries about guys having their working shoes on and being properly motivated. Let's be honest about it. They're going to be as in awe, the talent. They're going to be as in awe of this facility because most of them are not going to see it until Sunday. So they go in there and see it, all the staging and the set and all the stuff. It's really, I don't care who you are, how many of these you've done, it increases your pulse. It's good.
Sure.
I think we're going to be fine, quite frankly.
In today's world, it seems that professional wrestling is becoming mainstream again. With coverage by ESPN, Rolling Stone, and many more, what do you think caused this sudden change in the way professional wrestling is looked upon by the general public?
I think I know a lot of things that I can tell you, this might make some sense, I don't know. A lot of the decision makers in programming grew up as wrestling fans. A lot of guys that I'm working for now, whether it be at Access or hopefully my boxing gig, we hope to get that done, as I mentioned. But a lot of them grew up in that Attitude Era. They grew up in the heyday of WWE with all the star power, You look at one class that we recruited under my watch there. One class had Lesnar, Cena, Batista, Orton, and Shelton Benjamin in it. That's a pretty good class. And notwithstanding the fact we signed Rock and Kurt Angle and all these guys. So a lot of these executives, the decision makers, grew up in that generation. And I find that they're very easy to work with. They have a different outlook on wrestling. They understand it's entertainment, but it's entertainment that they embrace. So I think there's something to be said for that. And the other thing about doing is live, like Raw, or live to tape, is something that a lot of programmers like. Live television is hard to beat, no matter what your product is. So I don't know. I think it's good programming if it's properly produced. It's very episodic. It should be, and as long as you don't put wrestlers and athletes in an environment that they have to become actors and recite lines from memory, I think that you can really create some great product if you put the wrestlers, the athletes, the performers in their strengths and not in a environment that they maybe not be best suited for. So I'm happy that the business is doing well. It's served me great for 40 years. I'm back, my toes back in the water. I'm very blessed to have another shot at doing exactly a great product on a wonderful network, and hopefully I can add some more work to that. And I may be doing some things on the FITE network with some people that want me to do some MMA or some boxing or whatever. There's going to be a lot of opportunities come up to co-promote in those type situations.
Definitely. Now, Jim, we covered a lot of ground today. Where can people find out more information about your upcoming shows, projects, T-shirts, and even barbecue sauce on your podcast? Let the fans know. Well,
the fans at North America can order my products at www.shop.com. They can order it in England, UK, Ireland, and Europe at americansoda.co.uk. It's at www.shop on Twitter, at americansoda on Twitter. So they get that. That's easy, online, shipped right to your home. If you're living in the southeastern part of the United States and you're near an Ingles, I-N-G-L-E-S, market, they carry all of our products. That's over 200 stores in the southeastern part of the United States. They're headquartered in Asheville, North Carolina, by the way. So there's that. My website, JRSBARBQ, I write blogs. I answer Q&As from the fans. I'm on it pretty much every day, at least I try to be. And there's always information on my shows on that. But the shows, the only two shows I've got going forward because of my schedule being crazy is WrestleMania weekend. So right now it's April 2nd, Saturday of WrestleMania weekend, 2 shows, and the Monday night after Raw of WrestleMania weekend on all 3 of those shows at the Dallas House of Blues, and tickets at Ticketmaster.com. So, and I hope they follow me on Twitter at JRSBBQ. Well, Jim, we really appreciate your time today. For all the listeners out there, make sure you download FITE.tv, the app. It's FITE. Download the app. Jim, thank you so much for talking to us about it today, and much more. Okay, you bet. Anytime. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, we want to thank Jim Ross so much for coming on again to talk to us about FITE TV and all things professional wrestling. Be sure to check him out. He's going to be in Dallas around WrestleMania time. So if you're lucky enough to be there, check out one of his one-man shows. And speaking of shows, Steve, if you love us here on Another Wrestling Podcast, you should do yourself a favor and subscribe to us on YouTube. We have YouTube exclusive shows that you can only see on there. We have all kinds of episodes from past and present that are on there, as well as independent spotlights. Check us out. Go over there, youtube.com/Another Wrestling Pod.
Promo of the week.
Will be going against my guest at this time, and on the line, the Intercontinental Championship of the World for you, Jesse the Body Ventura. Welcome back to the Bay Area.
Well, you know what? This is going to be truly indeed a sad day for old Chico from Tijuana.
Well, he's from Tacula, Mexico.
Well, yeah, that's a suburb of Tijuana. Who cares, you know? You ever been down there? You ever faced Chico's revenge when he'd sell you one of them tacos? Wow, 24 hours later, you pay for it, Mean Gene.
Along with a little Mexican tap water.
Yeah.
Yes, I get that.
Let me say this to you, Chico. It's going to be a double loss to you. Number one, after I whip you for your Intercontinental title, you're facing a lawsuit from me, my man, for coming out on national television and lying to all the people in the Bay Area, telling them Jesse the Body Ventura hit you with brass knuckles, Chico Santana, the last time in that tag match when me and the Macho Man slapped you and that Pedro Morales from here all the way to San Jose. When they were done, they even asked us. They didn't know the way to San Jose.
I got that the first time, Jesse.
Because we knocked them out. Chico, all you got was a fist sandwich. And what you gonna say this time? What will the excuse be this time, Chico, when Jesse the Body lays the big fist right in the chops and you're down for the 10 count? You not only lose the Intercontinental title, but you lose all that money when I take you to court, Chico, for lying, for slander, for doing what you did to me, saying I hit you with a foreign object. How atrocious will you be?
All right, I thank you, Jesse Ventura.
My integrity.
Come on, all right.
And you know
All right, now Steve, we just talked about the networks that we're watching these days to get our pro wrestling fix, but I want to ask you, what are some of your favorite network shows right now? Some of the things that you really enjoy watching, and maybe some things that moving forward that they don't have right now that you would like to see on the network.
Yeah, and this goes for like anybody, any company, but specifically we're talking about WWE Network, but any other companies, if they kind of like do something similar, they'll definitely get a lot of fans out of this. And I like the stuff like the behind the scenes kind of thing. So I love WWE 24, where they take an event, they'll show like, the before how we got up to the event, the day of the event, and then after the event, like where they did with Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns on WWE 24. Great series. My favorite this year overall, though, I'll tell you, is Breaking Ground. It's almost like what Tough Enough should have been in a way, but to where it's not scripted. It's, what you see is what you get. If this guy's going to fail and not make it, he fails and doesn't make it. You know what I mean? It's not like, we're going to write him off this season. It's not like that in this show. So I definitely love the reality aspect to Breaking Ground. Definitely caught my attention, and it was definitely my top 3 of favorite shows on there. Even the Stone Cold podcasts. I love Steve Austin's podcast. It's another wrestling podcast, but I love seeing the live version of it. It's nice to see some of the guests that he had on it, from like McMahon and Heyman and all those guys. So it was a little bit different. You get to see like a live podcast happening. So those are just a few of my favorites. I mean, Jonathan, anything that stick out to you? Because there's so many shows within the few years that they've been on there, they've been growing. Because like when they first started, they didn't really have a lot of these network specials or different kinds of shows to give you, except for old pay-per-views and whatnot. So they definitely have come a long way in just a short amount of time.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of seeing the wrestlers outside of their element. So I liked Swerved. I thought that was pretty funny. It was very Jackass inspired. I like the ride along because it's kind of a glimpse into the life of what happens after they have been wrestling. Any of those things like that. But I'm always excited whenever they acquire a new library from a wrestling promotion or whatever. But I think there's a lot of things that, I know that on YouTube they have Up, Up, Down, Down, which is Xavier Woods' video game channel. I think that can turn into a network program very easily. I think, that show Jane Lynch hosts, it's at Hollywood Game Night.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be cool to have something like that where fans and wrestlers kind of get to compete against each other, like teams of wrestlers, like maybe a wrestling trivia sort of thing. The sky's the limit with the network, but the most important thing is that we get to continue to watch all of this stuff at a nominal fee. And one pay-per-view, I used to buy them. Buy them, or I would go down to like Hooters, or they used to call them WWE Blast areas, because you could go to a restaurant, Buffalo Wild Wings, Hooters, something like that, and you could just buy food and you could watch the pay-per-view, so you didn't have to shell out $60. Well, for $60, that gets me 6 months of the WWE Network, which includes 6 pay-per-views. So it's really a no-brainer, and I can't say enough about the WWE Network.
Yeah, Jonathan, like you said earlier too, you were bringing up about house shows and stuff, to put on there, and I think that would be a great idea. Let's say there's a house show tomorrow, I can't make it, but I really wanted to go. But if I can't go, what do? I just miss it. Well, what if they had like a live viewing of house shows? It doesn't have to be some, high-def WWE product. I'm just talking about like a regular one-shot camera of the event. You know what I mean? Like just watch it as it's live, almost like the old Madison Square Garden days where they just showed you like what was happening down there. There was no really high production value to it. It's just literally like you were there recording it off of a regular camera or whatnot. So I think that would be fun, but I also get the why you can't show every house show and whatnot. But if they just picked like a few, like once a month or something like that, I think it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think that they did this. They did the Beast from the East. They did that one where they were overseas. They've done, Takeover from London. I think it would be cool to see some, whenever WWE goes to other countries. We don't really get to see that, and we're very spoiled because every night in the United States there's wrestling going on, but major wrestling as well. A lot of these companies overseas, they don't, all the fans don't get that. So I think it's cool to see, the fans and their reactions to some of these superstars and stuff. So any specials where they would show companies or WWE going over to different countries would be pretty awesome to me.
That's right. And one more thing, too, about this. I work in TV. I'm a production person. I think a great show would be a show about the production, about putting on these type of shows, like, the lighting guys, the ring crew, setting up the stage everywhere they go, backstage a director's chair, like all the stuff that actually makes the show happen, because I feel like a lot of people have no idea what it takes to put on a show each night. And I think if you give everybody just a little bit of a taste of that kind of the world of wrestling, I think it would be interesting. And hey, it's just another show or special. And now that I think about it, if they're going to be using these ideas, I hope we get some credit of it, or at least the WWE Network for life free, huh?
Well, I mean, I'll take it. There's no way that I wouldn't take that. But I think that any of these ideas are really cool. It's going to be exciting to see. But Steve, I'm going to plant this seed right now. There's always stuff going on with us. We spent a lot of time brainstorming on our way to NXT the other day. I think there's some good stuff that's going to come from that we can maybe let people in on. We're not starting our own network, but you may see some shows and some funny things coming soon from another wrestling podcast.
That's right. Entice people to tune in. And Jonathan, we don't have a network, but we do have another wrestlingpodcast.com. And if you want to see anything video dealing with us, head on over to youtube.com/another wrestling pod. Subscribe to us, and I promise you, you won't
be disappointed.
That's right, Jonathan. Good thing we got you there. All right, everybody. Well, hey, once again, let us know what you think. Facebook us, facebook.com/another wrestling podcast. Tweet us at a wrestling pod, or call the AWP hotline. That's 802-297-7672. That's 802-AWP-7672. Give us a call. Give us a promo. Tell us what you love. Tell us what you hate. Tell us what's on your mind, and we will play the best calls each week.
Today's show is brought to you by...
All right, Steve, if you know me like you think you do, you know that I am a huge professional wrestling fan. We all are. That's why we're here right now talking about this. But sometimes it's hard to find original, cool pro wrestling memorabilia. Do you agree?
I agree.
Okay, well, I have the cure for the common wrestling merchandise, and that is ProWrestlingCrate.com. If you've never seen ProWrestlingCrate.com, they are a monthly subscription of exclusive shirts and collectibles for pro wrestling fans, handpicked by the biggest names in professional wrestling. Now, we've been fans of PW Crate for a very long time. They had a Mick Foley box, they had a Blue Meanie box, Kayfabe News box. Last month was the 80s. And if you sign up before March is over, you can get Mania Crate. Now, what's special about this crate is it has 2 shirts in each crate instead of the normal one. It's just an amazing company. We love the people over at Pro Wrestling Crate. They're always going out of their way to try to surprise the fans and give them what they want. If you want exclusive sneak peeks of what's going on in each crate, you can go and follow them at Pro Wrestling Crate on Instagram. You can go to facebook.com/pwcrate, and you can also follow them on Twitter at pwcrate.
Also, check out ManiaCrawl.com. Mania Crawl is an annual event that coincides with the biggest Pro Wrestling Show of the Year, WrestleMania. Mania Crawl brings hundreds of wrestling fans from around the world together for one jaw-dropping, eyebrow-raising, trailblazing bar crawl. Through the use of social media, various wrestling fan sites, and the overwhelming support of the pro wrestling community, Mania Crawl has grown to serve over 1,000 fans across 3 different cities, New Orleans, San Jose, and New York City. Their event is 100% free, for the fans, by the fans, with the goal of raising money for Connor's Cure and the Children's Hospital. This year's event will be held down in Dallas, Texas. Make sure you follow them on Twitter and Instagram, and to stay up to date with everything on Mania Crawl, head on over to maniacrawl.com.
Well, that's the show. We want to thank you all for listening today.
Every week we do this show free of charge for you, the fans.
If you're wondering how to repay us, we have just the thing.
Subscribe to us on iTunes, and while you're there, be sure to rate us and give us a good review.
And if you're looking for more information about AWP, then head on over to anotherwrestlingpodcast.com.
We are all over social media, and you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and more.
And if you're an AWP superfan, you can go show your support by going over to ProWrestlingTees.com and buying one of our official AWP shirts.
We couldn't do this show without you, so tune in next week for
Another Wrestling Podcast.